Inspiring reveal. Millionaire witnesses homeless MOM teaching 5-year-old, taking incredible action. Jake Stinson, the $1 million deal maker, always marched through Chicago's streets with purpose. The sun glinted off his tailored suit as he hustled to another meeting, the sound of a bustling city mixing with the rhythm of his confident strides. But today was different. Today, as he paused to check his watch, something caught his eye. There, under the shadow of a grand skyscraper, was a scene that shattered his fast-paced routine. A homeless mother, Maria, sat cross-legged on the sidewalk, her fingers gently guiding the tiny hands of her son, Carlos. A tattered children's book lay open on her lap, words barely visible, yet filled with all the hope in the world. Jake's heart jolted. The contrast was stark, his life of luxury and their struggle for even the simplest things. The sight of Maria, eyes brimming with determination as she pointed to each word, made his stomach twist. Carlos, with his innocent smile, clearly didn't he care about the dirt or the rags he wore. They were a world apart, but in that moment, they were parents just like Jake. Love poured from Maria as if she were the wealthiest woman alive, and it ignited something deep within him. Should he toss a couple of bills into their cup and walk away? That seemed too easy. Jake's mind raced as he grappled with the weight of their reality. Maria's story, once a proud teacher, brought low by hard times, hit him like a freight train. She fought daily not just for survival, but for her son's future. Each small victory in learning to read was a monumental act of resilience. Yet, as Jake approached her, excitement turned to trepidation. The community around Maria, those who had seen this struggle for years, eyed him with suspicion. "What does he really want?" murmured one neighbor. They debated his intention, pondering if he was an altruistic savior or just another wealthy man trying to ease his conscience. He invited Maria to meet his affluent friends, hoping to connect her with resources. Instead, the divide between their worlds only deepened. Hurt simmered in eyes that had seen life's darker sides all too acutely. Jake stood at a crossroads, evaluating his purpose. Could he truly help, or was he just shining a spotlight on their plight without understanding? As Maria opened his eyes to the complexities of her life, he felt both empowered and helpless. That evening, he took to social media, documenting her story in hopes of rallying support. But the response ignited a firestorm. Is he doing it for us, or for himself? Critics fired back, questioning not just his actions but the very fabric of wealth and privilege in society. As conversations surrounding his well-intentioned attempt spread like wildfire, Jake felt the weight of their scrutiny. Was he pressing into genuine change, or merely fanning the flames of discontent? Anxiety grew with each message, casting shadows over his lavish lifestyle. Standing before a crowd at the community meeting, he sensed the tension thick in the air. All eyes were on him, waiting for something real, something meaningful. "Before we continue," he exclaimed, "I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now, let's continue. The crowd shifted, some leaning in, others crossing their arms. Jake's heart raced as he prepared to speak, words swirling in his mind. Would they be the words that bridged the gap between intentions and actions, or merely underline the fractures his privilege had created? Jake inhaled deeply, the electric buzz of the room intensifying the weight on his shoulders. The people before him had lived experiences he could only begin to fathom. Their skepticism hung in the air like a thick fog. He could sense Maria's gaze on him as well, filled with hope yet laced with caution. She had laid bare her life, exposing vulnerability that demanded more than just good intentions. He took a step forward, clearing his throat. "I know you're all wondering what I'm doing here. And honestly, I've been questioning it myself." His voice wavered slightly, but he pressed on. "I came across a mother and son, right here. Maria and Carlos are a living testament to resilience, not just victims of circumstance. They are fighting with every ounce of strength they have. Hesitation mixed with growing curiosity echoed through the crowd. A few faces softened, while others remained hardened by years of disappointment. Jake hoped to strike a chord, shaking loose the skepticism they had built like armor against the world. But here's the thing: I've realized that just sharing their story isn't enough. I don't want to just be a spectator, dropping cash in a cup. I want to be part of something bigger. I want to connect with you all, learn, and ultimately take action together. A murmur passed through the crowd. It was a small crack in the wall built from mistrust. Yet Jake knew words alone couldn't break it. He felt urgency bubbling inside, a desire to transform their hesitation into empowerment. I want to create a community where we can all learn, teach, and uplift each other. You've seen the struggle, and I need your voices. We all have something to give. But a voice arose from the back, harsh and laced with years of anger. And what exactly are you willing to give? Money? Listen, we've seen plenty come and go like you. Empty promises from wealthy men looking for a little publicity. The crowd nodded, murmuring whispers of agreement. Jake's heart sank. He could feel the weight of their doubts press heavily on him. It was valid, he couldn't deny it. He needed to counter that doubt with raw honesty. You're right, he said, the vulnerability in his tones surprising even him. I can't just give money. It's about time, commitment, and understanding. I'm willing to stand side by side with you to confront the challenges collectively and work toward real solutions. Maria's eyes locked onto his, searching for sincerity. Jake could almost feel the pulse of her hope racing against his own anxiety. What if we started a literacy program, right here in this community? He suggested, his voice growing steadier. One that focuses on children but also guides parents, like Maria, toward job opportunities and skills they can take back into their lives. The silence room began to vibrate with a mix of disbelief and consideration. Could it be real? Would someone actually step into the chaos and commit to change? Just talking about change isn't enough, a woman said from the front, folding her arms tightly, expression still skeptical. People like you don't stay around long enough. Why should we trust you when so much has been broken? Jake met her gaze, willing her to see him without the filter of wealth. Because I don't want to be the savior. I want to be a partner. None of this will work unless we stand together. But I can't do this without you. Help me understand what the community truly needs. Help me build a bridge. The energy in the room shifted as curiosity sparked in some eyes while others were still shrouded in doubt. This was a pivotal moment. Would they be willing to reach out and take his hand, or would Jake remain the distant millionaire, incapable of grasping the realities of their lives? As the silence hung, heavy with possibility, Maria stepped forward. If you really mean it, then show us. But be ready. It won't be easy. Jake nodded slowly, realizing this was just the beginning of a difficult journey. What lay ahead could do more than help one mother and son, it could redefine entire lives, perhaps even his own. But would the community join him, or would they turn away, mistrust still reigning? The moment felt packed with tension, but Jake was determined to take that first step. Then he heard the whispers again, but this time, they felt different. On his next moves would depend not just his assurance, but the very fabric of hope stitched between unlikely allies. Jake could feel the air grow tenser as he stood under the weight of their stares. This was a territory he had never navigated before, real lives, raw emotions, and he realized he was no longer just a voice in the crowd. He was about to become part of this community's narrative, weaving his thoughts into a tapestry of their struggles and dreams. The murmurs in the room began to pick up. Skepticism hung in the air, but alongside it, there was a flicker of something else: hope. The kind of hope that was fragile yet powerful. Maria cleared her throat, catching more than just Jake's attention. Let us talk, but you need to hear us first. If you're serious about this, you need to understand what we've been through. Jake nodded, feeling a swell of responsibility wash over him. I want to listen. I want to understand. Okay, Maria began, gaining momentum. We're not looking for handouts. We need empowerment. My son Carlos, she paused, her voice thickening, he deserves a chance. But I need to build myself up first. I've made mistakes. Mistakes that left me scrambling to make every dollar count just to keep food on the table. A collective sigh resonated in the audience. Jake could see people leaning in, their arms untangling slightly, as they began to let down their guard. "Let me share something," said a man with a weathered face barely visible beneath a worn baseball cap. His voice cracked as he continued, "I had a job that paid decent money once before the accident. Lost everything when I got hurt." He glanced down, the shame evident in his eyes. "Now I can't even get a call back for a basic position. What do you offer us that we haven't seen before?" Jake felt a pang in his heart. "I can't offer you false promises. But what if we created a space, a resource center where people could come together not just for literacy, but for job training, support groups, and mentorship?" A murmur of disbelief swept through the crowd again. A woman near the front raised her hand, her voice almost angry. "And what happens when you leave? What's left behind then?" Her eyes shimmered, reflecting years of built-up anguish. "Then you take it over," Jake replied firmly. "I want to help you build this, every first step, and make sure it becomes yours. It's not about my plans or vision, it's about what you need." The atmosphere felt charged, like a storm waiting to unleash its rain. Slowly, people began to speak up, one voice after another, sharing their fears and frustrations, dreams and aspirations. "I want to learn how to write a resume," a young woman said, her fingers fidgeting with her sleeves. "I need help with interview skills," another chimed in, each declaration adding weight to the conversation. Jake's heart raced. This was it, this was the bridge he needed, the connection he longed for. But could he weave his intentions with their burdens and create something meaningful? As the group engaged in the discussion, Maria took a step back, watching him with a hint of curiosity mixed with caution. Would he really stand alongside them in their fight? Jake stood tall, absorbing each word, each story wrapped in pain but bursting with potential. A sense of camaraderie began to blossom. This felt right. Maybe they could build a community where they could grow together. When the conversation started to slow, something shifted. It was in the way people's faces softened, how they began to nod in unison, as if they were weighing the possibility of trust. Yet, Jake could feel the looming shadow of doubt. Would these fragile connections hold up under the weight of time? He turned back to Maria, her face illuminated by the last rays of the setting sun seeping through the window. "Let us get started," he said, the determination ringing clear in his voice. But as he took that first step, he realized that every journey has its hurdles. "But what if?" Maria's hesitant voice floated through the stillness, almost drowned by the rising hopes around them. Jake felt butterflies stir in his stomach. He had to be ready for any obstacles that lay ahead. Did he really have what it took to stand up for them when the going got tough? In that moment, the weight of their collective dreams rested upon his shoulders. The question lingered in the air like the last glimmer of daylight: what if he failed? The next morning, Jake arrived at the community center earlier than usual. The dawn light poured through the tall windows, casting a glow on the empty, worn chairs. He sat quietly, thinking about everything he had heard the night before. The weight of those stories pressed against his chest, and the vulnerability he felt was almost overwhelming. Each face had told him a tale filled with struggle but also curiosity, maybe even hope. Maria was the first to arrive. She walked in with a sense of purpose, her hair pulled back tightly, revealing the determination etched in her features. "Good morning, Jake," she said, her voice steady. "Are we ready to make this happen?" "Absolutely," he replied, feeling invigorated by her resolve. "Where do we start?" "Let us brainstorm some ideas for the center," she said, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "We need to make it a safe space where people can come not just for learning but to feel supported." As they sketched out plans on the whiteboard, more residents trickled in. Slowly, the room filled with familiar faces and new ones. Each person seemed to carry an unspoken weight but also a hint of curiosity, as they watched Jake and Maria collaborate. Jake smiled nervously as he began to speak, drawing the attention of the group. "Thank you all for coming. I wish to create an environment where we can learn from each other," he began. "No idea is too small. This is your community, and I want you to shape it. A young man, a recent immigrant named Andre, raised his hand. Can we have workshops? Like cooking classes, or how to manage finances? Great idea! Jake replied, heart racing at the sight of people leaning in, their interest piquing. And we should think about inviting some local businesses for job training, added an older woman named Lucy. Her hands trembled slightly as she spoke, but her voice held a strong conviction. As ideas bounced around the room, laughter and chatter started to fill the space, warming it like sunlight peeking through the clouds. It felt like a fragile but important moment, one that could blossom into something meaningful. But just as enthusiasm surged, Jake felt a knot in his stomach. What if this energy fizzled out? What if they hit a wall or faced backlash from outside? Maria must have sensed his hesitation. Jake, she said softly, we need to remember that this is a community effort. People will be invested if they feel like they own a piece of it. He nodded, but doubt still lingered in his mind. I want to make sure we can provide real resources, not just empty promises. That's when Carlos, Maria's son, entered the room clutching a crumpled drawing in his small hand. He approached Jake cautiously, his big brown eyes searching for answers. Are you going to help my mom? He asked, his innocence wrapped in a plea. Jake knelt down to Carlos's level. I sure am, buddy. Together, we're all going to help each other. Carlos whispered, can we make it fun too? Jake's heart melted at the boy's simplicity. Yes. Fun is key. We'll have classes, events, and just places to hang out. The room erupted in chuckles, their collective spirits lifting like a kite taking flight. But as the laughter echoed against the walls, Jake knew they were standing at the precipice of something monumental. Just then, a woman pushed through the door. Her expression twisted in rage and frustration. She shouted, "What do you think you're doing here? You don't belong." The air shifted abruptly, tension replacing joy. Jake's heart raced as he faced the potential storm brewing before them. How would he handle this challenge? Would he stand firm for them when it mattered most? His voice came out stronger than he felt. We're building a community here, he said, eyes locked with hers. We want to support each other. But deep down, he questioned whether he had the strength to weather the storm that had just entered. Would this confrontation fracture their burgeoning unity? The atmosphere hung heavy, filled with uncertainty. What would happen next? The woman's fierce gaze swept over the room, scanning faces filled with confusion and fear. Her words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Jake felt the weight of responsibility press down on him, as if the room had shifted and he was now the center of a storm. Who do you think you are? She continued, her voice sharp. You come in here with your grand ideas. What do you know about us? About our struggles? Jake's palms were clammy as he struggled to find the right words. He glanced at Maria, who stood with a fire in her eyes, ready to defend their mission. I may not know everything, Jake began, trying to gather his courage. But I know that everyone here deserves a place to feel safe and supported. We're all here to learn from one another, to build each other up, not tear each other down. Several people in the room shifted, nodding gently in agreement. Lucy leaned forward, her eyes showing solidarity. We're here to help each other, she said, her voice steady despite the tension. We're stronger together. The woman hesitated, the anger in her expression wavering as the energy in the room began to change. Jake seized the opportunity. I want to hear your story. If you've got a concern, let us talk about it. Share your thoughts. A pause enveloped them, and in that stillness, Jake could feel the room holding its breath, waiting for a response. The woman's jaw clenched, but her defensive stance softened. You think you can fix everything just like that? She shot back, uncertainty mingling with anger. When it feels impossible, we just keep trying, he replied, confidence building with each word. Together. We can't promise miracles, but we can offer our hearts and hands. Carlos stood quietly next to his mom, clutching his drawing. We want everyone to be happy here, he piped up boldly. Can't we all just be friends? The room erupted in nervous laughter, breaking through the tension. The woman's stern expression held for a moment longer before it crumbled into a reluctant smile, just a glimmer of warmth. There was a softness behind her eyes that Jake hadn't noticed before. Maria stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "We'd love your input. If this is going to work, we need you. We need everyone to believe in this dream." The woman's expression shifted as if she was caught between the urge to fight back and the desire to be part of something greater. "What if it doesn't work?" she asked, her vulnerability surfacing for an instant. Tom, an older gentleman from the back, spoke up. "What if it does? What if we all make our lives a little better together? Isn't that worth the risk?" The energy in the room shifted again, palpable and electric. People began nodding, sharing glances rich with possibility. Jake felt hope swell in his chest. The woman, softened by the support around her, finally took a breath. "Maybe I can offer some ideas too. This community is mine just as much as it is yours." Her voice softening, she stepped closer. Jake's heart soared. "That's exactly what we need. Let us create a space for everyone." They began brainstorming again, and for every unease that lingered, there blossomed a feeling of togetherness, a vision where walls could turn into bridges. But amid the laughter and ideas, Jake felt an undertow of concern. What if, in their quest to build unity, someone still felt excluded? As new voices filled the air, Jake glanced around the room, seeking reassurance that everyone felt included. Would there be genuine understanding? Or would there be more challenges ahead? Just then, as they were engrossed in ideas, the sound of sirens wailed in the distance. What did that mean for their plans? Would their budding community survive the chaos that always seemed to threaten? In that moment, he realized they were at a breaking point, ready to leap into uncharted waters, full of hope but uncertain of what lay beneath. Could they truly embrace these changes together? The sirens grew louder, piercing through the newfound camaraderie in the room. Jake's heart raced, following the wailing sound that seemed to echo the uncertainty in their midst. Everyone exchanged worried glances, and the woman who had challenged him moments before clenched her jaw again, her earlier vulnerability slipping away. "What's going on?" she demanded, the fight re-entering her voice. "Are we in danger?" No, it's not like that," Jake stammered, trying to diffuse the tension. "It's probably just the EMTs responding to something down the block." "But what if it's something serious?" Carlos interjected, eyes wide with concern. "What if someone needs help?" The room held its breath. Jake's mind raced, contemplating the implications of those sirens. "Helping people, that's what we want, right?" he said finally, looking around at the faces lit by doubt. "Maybe this is our chance to show that we can be there for each other in tough times." "Yeah, but how?" Lucy piped up, her hands clasped together. "What can we do from here?" He took a deep breath, grounding himself. "We can be a community beyond just our own worries. Let us unify our strengths. What if we organize a response team? We could figure out how to provide support, while they handle the emergencies. We could knock on doors, offer resources." The idea sparked something, flaring like a match in dry tinder. Energy rippled through the crowd again as people started buzzing with ideas, noting what could be done in the immediate future. The woman stepped forward again, her expression transforming from concern to focus. "I work at the food bank," she said, her voice firm. "We could start by gathering supplies down there. Food, water, maybe blankets. I can get the word out, see what we have." "Let us do it," Jake said, feeling adrenaline surge through him. "If we act now, we can make a difference. We have to show them that we care." As they broke into groups, Jake felt a growing sense of purpose. Maria moved to help Carlos write down what they needed for the food collection, laughter lingering about how they'd reach out to their neighbors. Tom connected with others to coordinate logistics, each person grasping the way forward. But a nagging voice fluttered around in Jake's mind. Would they truly be able to hold this together? Would people show up when it mattered, or was this just admirable talk in the face of fear? "Jake," Lucy called, pulling him from his thoughts. "What do we do if someone confronts us? They might not want our help." He looked over at her, the shadows of doubt creeping back. "Then we listen. No one wants to feel alone. We offer what we can, and if they don't want it, at least we're there for them, right? More sirens blared in the distance as the group's focus shifted, gathering supplies and preparing plans. As Jake looked around at the hopeful faces, he felt a flicker of something almost miraculous, people coming together. But just as the excitement took hold, the trembling of new voices wove in and out of the mix, murmuring about obstacles they could face. What if the situation escalated? What if fear overtook courage within the community? The energy shifted again as tension mixed with anticipation. Were they, just moments ago, on the brink of something beautiful only to spiral into chaos as the undeniable realities of their surroundings pressed down on them? As they started mobilizing, a single thought struck him: even a small act of kindness could light a spark. But would it be enough to stave off a storm that loomed just beyond their plans? In that moment, he resolved to believe. Belief could unite, and perhaps, in the middle of a storm, lay a chance for profound transformation. Would love be their compass as they journey into the uncertainty ahead? Jake felt urgency swell in the room as the plan began taking shape. Energy ran high, but Jake's heart pounded with questions. How sustainable was this? What if they faced pushback? Teetering on the edge of excitement and anxiety, he pushed himself further into action. "All right, let's get started," he said, rallying his team. "Who's in charge of getting connection with the food bank?" The woman who'd spoken up earlier, Sarah, raised her hand. "I can handle that. I have contacts I can reach out to." "Perfect," Jake replied, felt the weight of responsibility shift onto her shoulders and himself. "Lucy, can you and Carlos handle the logistics of reaching out to neighbors? Maybe we can create flyers and start a group chat to organize everyone." "On it," Lucy shot back, seconds later scribbling notes furiously while Carlos smiled, inspired by her enthusiasm. "Tom," Jake turned to him, "we need a base. If we can establish a safe spot, we can coordinate everything without confusion." "Let's make that happen," Tom nodded, already pulling out his phone, ready to start making calls. As they broke into smaller groups, laughter and chatter filled the space again. The chaos transformed into something constructive. But with every burst of energy, Jake felt a flicker of doubt. He couldn't shake the thought that the sirens outside did not contain all the answers. Outside, streets were alive with distant voices, some cathartic, others pained. Images of unfortunate circumstances flashed through Jake's mind, reminding him of the thin line between helping and invading privacy. What happens when they would face someone unkind or too proud to accept assistance? Within moments, the immediate concerns of supplies drowned his worries as more neighbors gathered, curious about the commotion. A voice cut through the din. "What's happening here?" An older man stood at the threshold, arms crossed, brows furrowed. Jake took a deep breath, stepping forward. "We're organizing assistance for anyone in need amid the chaos. Would you like to help?" "Why would I?" The man's words were like a punch, harsh and unexpected. Others around them paused, caught in the tension. Jake's stomach twisted. Because we're stronger together. There are people suffering out there, and we can actually do something." He locked eyes with the man. "We can show them they're not alone. Don't you want to make a difference?" Silence fell over the small crowd, and for a moment the man's defenses flickered. Jake could see the gears turning, the uncertainty hiding behind hardened eyes. "Listen," the man replied, his voice softer, "I've been let down before. People promise to help, and then nothing." "We can't promise anything," Jake said honestly, "but we can try. Maybe we'll fail, or maybe we'll succeed and change one life, just one. Isn't that worth it?" The man's posture shifted just slightly, jaw unclenching. "Maybe," he muttered, looking around at the growing group behind Jake. "Then join us," Jake urged gently. "We can each make a small impact." One by one, faces turned from skeptics to allies, possibilities blooming where doubt once settled. Resilience was beginning to breed hope. Yet the sirens still sounded in the distance, urgent, demanding attention. What if they got overwhelmed? What if questioning turned to hostility? As the outlines of plans solidified, Jake felt adrenaline and anxiety packed tightly in his chest. Their mission might pull them deeper than he ever expected. Would they hold firm, Or would the waves become too heavy to bear? As he prepared to move forward, his eyes met Sarah's. She gave him a nod, sharing a silent understanding. It was time to push the boundaries, embracing the challenge ahead, what lay beyond the chaos outside. Would they indeed emerge united, or would the burdens they were carrying start pulling them apart? As uncertainty loomed, Jake's heart sank deeply into that one thought: the real test was still ahead. Would they rise together in the storm? The atmosphere buzzed with a strange mix of anticipation and anxiety as Jake watched the group begin to merge into a cohesive unit. The older man who had hesitated before was now engaged, discussing with a few others how to best approach nearby families. Each moment turned the weight of doubt into a sliver of hope. "Jake!" Sarah called, her voice cutting through the noise. He turned to find her on the phone, a look of determination on her face. "I just spoke to the food bank. They're willing to donate a truckload of supplies. They want to know the best time to drop everything off." "Wow, that's amazing!" Jake exclaimed, the excitement creeping into his tone as adrenaline surged. "Let us arrange for them to come here tomorrow morning. We'll need as many hands as possible to unload everything." "Already on it," Sarah said, already jotting down suggestions. The way her eyes sparkled with energy made Jake smile. He felt grateful for her enthusiasm. It was contagious. In the meantime, Lucy and Carlos had gathered a small team, outlining what the flyers would look like: bright colors, urgent but friendly messages. Jake could hear snippets of their conversation, ideas bouncing back and forth, ramping up the momentum around them. Suddenly, the crowd shifted as a small group of hesitant neighbors stepped closer, drawn in by the growing buzz. Jake recognized them from his street but had never known them personally. He stepped forward, arms open, his heart racing. "Hey there! We're getting organized to help those in need. The more, the merrier. Want to join us?" One woman glanced around, her eyes wide. "Do you really think we can make a difference?" Jake nodded vigorously. "Look, we don't have to change the world overnight, but we can absolutely change someone's day, maybe even their life. Every little bit helps." She exchanged a look with a man at her side, who stepped forward, meeting Jake's gaze. "I've never done anything like this before. But I guess we can try together." As the group began to take shape, there was a palpable shift in the air. Real connection was forming, strangers were becoming allies. More neighbors joined in to help spread the word, while Tom secured a location nearby where they could set up a base of operations. But just as Jake felt a swell of hope rising, a deep siren wailed closer than before. The sound cut through the joyous chatter, pulling everyone's attention back to the reality outside. Faces tightened, and he could sense the hesitation creeping back in. "What if we can't handle it? What if we go out and make things worse?" Someone murmured, their voice low but laced with fear. Jake silenced the doubts in his own mind, forcing clarity. "We have to trust ourselves and one another. Even when it's hard. Every act of kindness generates more kindness. If we keep our hearts open, we'll find a way." He clapped his hands together, rallying their spirits. "Let us focus on what we can do." Just then, his phone buzzed in his pocket. A quick glance revealed a message from Sarah. "Emergency meeting. We need to talk." Jake's stomach dropped. "I'll be right back," he said, excitement shifting to concern as he stepped aside to answer the call. Was there trouble brewing already? He thought of the folks he'd just rallied, the promise they'd made to meet the uncertainty head-on. As he walked away to gather more details, doubts jostled for space in his mind. Was their united front about to unravel before it could even take flight? And just as that question settled, he overheard a couple discussing how they could contribute food, telling neighbors where to donate. Hope flickered again within him, but the sirens still echoed ominously in the background, reminding him that the real challenge was far from over. Would their plans hold in the face of adversity? What was waiting around the next corner? Would the first real test of their mission draw them even closer, or tear them apart before they had a chance to fully unite? Jake stepped away from the bustling crowd, the chatter fading into a faint murmur as he focused on Sarah's message. An emergency meeting? The concern in her text gnawed at him, making his heart race faster than before. What could have happened? He took a breath, trying to steady himself, and walked towards the corner of the park where Sarah usually set up shop. When he reached her, he could see the storm brewing in her eyes. "Jake, I know we've got momentum, but I just got word about the latest developments," she said, urgency dripping from her voice. "Developments? What kind of developments?" His mind raced with possibilities. There's been a spike in demand for help. Families are being turned away because the shelters are overflowing. The food bank is at capacity and can't guarantee more supplies. They need us to act, and fast, she replied, her brow furrowing with concern. Jake felt a kick in his gut. So what do? We can't just sit here and let people suffer. We need to find a way to meet that need, he said, resolute. Exactly. But it's going to require more than just us. We need the entire community on board. I'm worried that if we aren't organized enough, we could end up frustrating people more than helping. Jake leaned in, trying to absorb her words. So how do we rally the troops then? We've already got a good start. Let us build on it. For a moment, Sarah was silent, weighing her thoughts before speaking. We need to widen our net. Reach out to more neighbors, local businesses, everybody. We should create a digital platform, something where people can pledge support and offer resources. Plus, we have to establish clear roles so that when the food arrives, we have a solid plan in place. All right, Jake said, feeling the urgency blend with a flicker of excitement. Let us put out a call for help and a community meeting. We can use the park again and make it a weekend event. Sarah nodded, her face lighting up with hope. Good idea! We can use social media to our advantage. I think we can make a splash that feels positive and urgent. The two of them swung into action, calling on people nearby to help share the word. As flyers were printed and schedules outlined, the weight of responsibility hung heavily on Jake's shoulders. He glanced at the sirens still sounding in the distance, and his stomach churned. We've got to move fast, or we'll end up losing people who need us, he stated, the flames of determination rekindling in his chest. Jake, Sarah said, gripping his arm, we can do this. Together, we just need to stay focused. It doesn't have to be perfect. We'll learn and adapt as we go. His mind raced with thoughts, images of families who could be helped. Maybe they could actually make a difference, a remarkable difference. That idea warmed his heart, igniting a sense of purpose that coursed through his veins. As they worked into the evening, gathering neighbors' support, something strange stirred in the air. Their planning was becoming a movement, alive and breathing with every new face joining in. But throughout the excitement, an unsettling feeling lurked. He didn't want to think about what failure looked like, but he couldn't shake it from his mind. What if they couldn't manage the expectations? The fear pressed against his chest as the evening deepened. Just as Jake felt a breakthrough moment rising, a commotion broke out near the edge of the park. He turned sharply, heart pounding, to see a group of people gathered around something. Whispers rippled through the crowd, tension mounting. Is everything okay over there? Jake called out. He stepped forward, only to see the blinking lights of an ambulance pull up nearby, and a stranger being rushed toward it. What had happened? Was someone hurt? His heart raced anew, and he felt time stutter. This situation could spiral out of control. And in that moment, the reality of what they were facing loomed heavier than ever. If this was the kind of chaos the community faced daily, how could they truly make an impact? Jake inhaled deeply, adrenaline kicking in. They were committed now, no turning back. But as uncertainty darkened his thoughts, he clenched his fists, ready to confront whatever challenge awaited. What if this event was just the beginning, a sign that their mission was more critical than they had realized? How far were they willing to go to support each other? And would they rise to the challenge as a community or falter under the weight of it all? Jake took a deep breath, watching the scene unfold in front of him. The urgency in the air crackled, and he could feel the anxiety hanging over the crowd like a storm cloud. People were still buzzing with talk about their plans, but the sight of that ambulance tugged at his heart, showing him just how fragile life could be. Everyone, listen up! Jake called out, raising his voice to quiet the murmurs. We can't afford to sit back and let fear dictate our actions. This community needs us now more than ever. Determination surged within him, and he looked into the eyes of those around him. They were weary, but there was a flicker of hope, a spark ready to ignite. Let us gather around and come up with an immediate plan, he shouted, trying to capture their focus. We know families are struggling, and that this could happen to any of us at any time. He paused, feeling the weight of his words. We have the ability to make a difference not just for these moments, but every day moving forward. Sarah stepped forward, her presence grounding him. We can start by creating a network of support. Let's organize teams that can respond to emergencies like this, whether it's food, care, or shelter. No one should feel alone in their struggle. The crowd began to nod, the weight of doubt lifting just a little bit. Maria moved beside Jake, a fierce determination in her eyes. We've all been through hard times. Let us show them that we care, that we're here to lift them up. Her voice rang clear, cutting through the uncertainty with a resolute power. As the plans began to take shape, the excitement grew. They divided into groups, discussing how they could be ready when the next emergency arose. What if we set up a hotline? People can call in for help or resources, one neighbor suggested, and everyone jumped on board. We could schedule weekly meetings to update each other on what is happening in the community. Keep the lines of communication open, another chimed in. Jake had never felt more alive than at that moment. Each suggestion breathed new life into their initiative, transforming uncertainty into action. Each person's commitment laid a brick in the foundation of their new community. He could see the walls of mistrust starting to crack. They were no longer strangers. They were allies in a fight against adversity. Hours flew by as they shared ideas and mapped out their next steps. We'll make this a regular meeting, Sarah said, looking around at everyone gathered. The park can be our central hub. We'll collect resources, share news, and plan outreach efforts. Together, we need to be the change we want to see. Just then, a familiar face approached. The older man who doubted them earlier stepped forward, his features softer now. You all have a fire in you. I've seen how quickly a spark can turn into a flame. What can I do to help? People turned to him, nodding in appreciation. We're building something strong here, Jake replied, gratitude swelling in his chest. Join us. Everyone's voice matters. The crowd erupted into conversations, sharing stories and ideas, and for the first time, it felt like they were genuinely creating something together. The sirens had stopped, but the energy from the community grew, lighting a path toward hope. As night fell, illuminated by streetlights, laughter filled the park. Carlos, still clutching his crumpled drawing, broke through the crowd, waving it excitedly. Look! I drew a picture of all of us helping. Jake knelt down to the boy, holding his artwork. This is amazing, Carlos. One day, we'll make this picture a reality. The boy's eyes sparkled, filled with childlike trust. Can we have a food party too? Jake couldn't help but chuckle, the innocence of a child washing over him like a wave of warmth. Absolutely. We'll make it fun for everyone. The next few weeks blurred into a whirlwind of activity meetings, outreach, collection drives. They faced challenges, resistance, and doubts swirled, but through it all, the community stood firm, rallying together to each uphold their part of the mission, and on those days when it felt overwhelming, Jake would think of Maria and Carlos, their resilience acting as a guiding light. They were the heartbeat of this endeavor, showing everyone how powerful hope could be. Eventually, the program expanded beyond literacy and into skill training and job opportunities. Many from the community found a place to belong, flourishing through the support that tethered their dreams together. On a clear Saturday morning, Jake found himself standing at a new community center opened just a block from where Maria and Carlos used to sit. The place buzzed with laughter, and neighbors greeted each other warmly, fortified by the bonds that had formed. He spotted Maria, her smile radiant, an embodiment of the brightness that had emerged from struggle. She stepped toward him, her eyes glistening. You did this, Jake. You gave us a voice and we ran with it. Jake felt tears prick his eyes, pure joy filling his heart. No, we did this, Maria. Together. This is just the beginning. As families filed in, and the air filled with the smell of food and laughter, he felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Their connection had sparked a transformation. Not just the community, they all had transformed, each stepping out from the shadows of their struggles into the light of shared purpose. And through it all, Jake realized the most profound lesson: true wealth wasn't measured by money but by love and connection. The journey from isolation to unity had birthed a family, forged not by blood but by a commitment to support and uplift each other. As the sun began to set, casting golden light over their gathering, he looked around at the smiling faces, the warmth of community wrapped around him like an embrace. He understood that they were not only ready to face tomorrow's struggles, they had the strength to embrace every moment together, forging resilience in the face of all uncertainty. This was their moment. This was their transformation. And it was just the beginning. You need to subscribe now to stay tuned for more exclusive stories that inspire and uplift. This is the moment to show your support, so hit that like button now to feed the algorithm. Don't wait not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this uplifting transformation. We grow together, and every action counts. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about this incredible journey. Join us in making a difference.